Silksong is an unapologetic Metroidvania with extreme difficulty and plenty of backtracking. It's palatable though because the combat is precise and the battles are fair, with one minor exception that we'll discuss later. The last game that was able to burrow underneath my skin in a similar way was in early 2022 when Elden Ring released, which I don't think is a coincidence. These two titles share plenty of similarities, including the oppressive world, demanding combat, and rich lore that's available if you want it. But it's the retro design philosophy that makes both titles so engaging. Silksong is Team Cherry's Elden Ring. Provide players with a massive, sprawling world full of mystery and intrigue, then encourage exploration through curiosity and not waypoints. Silksong took at least 7 years to develop, and it shows because the magic comes from exploring Pharloom to the fullest. Going off of the beaten path constantly rewards the player, and as a bonus, you will become less frustrated and discover a plethora of items that will greatly aid your journey. For the brave souls who are up for the challenge, Silksong will go down in history as a quintessential Metroidvania experience. Before we jump into the video, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you. I understand that life is busy and you have a lot of options on YouTube, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the video. If by some chance you have been living under a rock since 2019 when Silksong was officially unveiled, it's the follow-up to Team Cherry's massively successful Metroidvania masterpiece that has gone on to sell over 15 million copies. In Silksong, you play as Hornet, a dangerous and agile NPC from Hollow Knight that you met and squared off with numerous times. Most people are probably assuming that Silksong is just more Hollow Knight, and why shouldn't they? After all, Silksong was originally intended to be nothing more than a small DLC, an additional playable character for reaching a stretch goal on the original Kickstarter. Here's the thing, Silksong is much more than a simple sequel with enough sweeping changes to feel like an entirely different game. The feeling is reminiscent of Alien to Aliens or Terminator to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Technically, all three are sequels with some shared DNA, but they are a big departure from the point of origin. The shift begins with a major tonal change. If Hollow Knight was gothic horror, then Silksong tips the scales even farther towards the darker territory with a strong, foreboding sense of horror with imagery and compositions throughout to accentuate this difference. This begins from the very first scene. Hornet is shackled and held captive for reasons unbeknownst, and after escaping, Hornet finds herself in the middle of the dark lands of Pharloom on a quest for answers. The journey only gets darker as the game progresses, with some of the later areas being especially bone-chilling and haunting. While the tonal shift might be subtle to some, the bigger and more tangible departures from the source material are the new mechanics and the new gameplay. Silksong moves and controls very differently from Hollow Knight, but still has a very recognizable feel. One of the most iconic moves was the ability to attack downwards, or pogo, which has been replaced by a downward angled attack. Hornet also moves much faster, and as a result, the world feels much more grand and imposing. You will still gain essence from attacking enemies, but the system works very differently. You no longer heal one heart at a time, instead you heal 3 at a time, which can constantly shift the balance of a battle. It's also not a button that you can hold, as you just need to press it, but if you are hit at any point during the healing process, all the silk will be completely wasted. The new healing ability is a very risk versus reward gambit. The other big gameplay change is that you can also use the silk to use a special attack ability instead of using it to heal, which is once again another decision for players to make. The big mechanical difference is that the charm system is gone and has been replaced with a crest system. The crest system has slots to equip perks, but it also has a special skill. This is a unique way to offer everyone a different way to play that isn't the charm system. There are also quests, bounties, and wishes that you can claim and do, which address one of the major concerns with the original and how it felt like there was a lot of aimless wandering and empty backtracking. With the bounty and the quest system, you are provided with an extra incentive to explore Pharloom to the fullest. If all of the differences that elevated Silksong to a completely different echelon wasn't enough, it also improved a lot of the little details as well as retained all of the elements that made the original beloved. The hand-drawn world is still stunning, with every corner hiding something magical to discover, but it also feels more alive with improved cinematics. Combat is still extremely fair and satisfying, but it's also been expanded. The list truly goes on and on. There is no way to sugarcoat the issue that most people will have. Silksong is relentless from beginning to end. For the most part, this isn't a criticism because it almost always feels fair, but it's very important to note that for some people, Silksong will be too hard, especially those who might have gotten caught up in the hype. Combat begins very tough and only increases, but as mentioned, it is always fair except for one instance near the end of Act 2, where there was an arena battle that not only felt uninspired as you had to battle 10 waves of enemies, but it also didn't feel fair and should have been relegated to a side quest. The one issue that this high level of difficulty brings is that due to the inherent nature of it, you will find yourself constantly in front of difficult bosses, and it's hard to know if you are in the right place or not. With some of the difficult platforming sections, there are environmental cues that alert you that you aren't in the right place. Your journey across the lands of Pharloom will take you to some stunning locations, but they did lack the same visual impact of Hollow Knight. There are plenty of thematically distinct areas in Pharloom, and even some that felt Zelda-inspired, but they were part of the same spectrum of visually darker tones. Silksong lacked the visual variety of Hollow Knight, including the bright yellow vibrancy of the Hive, or the emerald greens of the Royal Waterways, the purple mist of Fog Canyon, or the pink hues of Crystal Peak, just to name a few of the more iconic locations. However, I am inclined to think that with the world being darker and more oppressive, this was just in line with the tone of the story. Expectations and hype eventually do more harm and tip the scales in the wrong direction, as reality has a hard time aligning. Silksong has incredibly managed to exceed the expectations. Silksong is the exception and not the rule, where the sequel overshadows the original in every way, which is impressive, as Hollow Knight is one of the best Metroidvanias of all time. During development, Team Cherry said that because they weren't in a rush to release the game, they would only do so when it matched the scale and the quality of Hollow Knight. Silksong doesn't match the scale and quality of Hollow Knight, it outshines it, as Silksong will be remembered as one of the greatest Metroidvanias of all time. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, the biggest thing that you can do to help is to leave a comment. I hope to see you again in the next video, and until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.